Genesis chapter 30, verse 1. And when Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister, and said unto Jacob, Give me children, or else I die. Verse 2. And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel. And he said, Am I in God's stead? Who hath withheld from thee the fruit of the womb? Verse 3. And she said, Behold my maid Bilhah, go in unto her, and she shall bear upon my knees, that I may also have children by her. Verse 4. And she gave him Bilhah her handmaid to wife. And Jacob went in unto her. Verse 5. And Bilhah conceived, and bare Jacob a son. Verse 6. And Rachel said, God hath judged me, and hath also heard my voice, and hath given me a son. Therefore called she his name Dan. Verse 7. And Bilhah Rachel's maid conceived again, and bare Jacob a second son. Verse 8. And Rachel said, With great wrestlings have I wrestled with my sister, and I have prevailed. And she called his name Naphtali. Verse 9. When Leah saw that she had left bearing, she took Zilpah her maid, and gave her Jacob to wife. Verse 10. And Zilpah Leah's maid bare Jacob a son. Verse 11. And Leah said, A troop cometh. And she called his name Gad. Verse 12. And Zilpah Leah's maid bare Jacob a second son. Verse 13. And Leah said, Happy am I, for the daughters will call me blessed. And she called his name Asher. Verse 14. And Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest, and found mandrakes in the field, and brought them unto his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, Give me, I pray thee, of thy son's mandrakes. Verse 15. And she said unto her, Is it a small matter that thou hast taken my husband? And wouldest thou take away my son's mandrakes also? And Rachel said, Therefore he shall lie with thee tonight for thy son's mandrakes. Verse 16. And Jacob came out of the field in the evening, and Leah went out to meet him, and said, Thou must come in unto me, for surely I have hired thee with my son's mandrakes. And he lay with her that night. Verse 17. And God hearkened unto Leah, and she conceived, and bare Jacob the fifth son. Verse 18. And Leah said, God hath given me my hire, because I have given my maiden to my husband. And she called his name Issachar. Verse 19. And Leah conceived again, and bare Jacob the sixth son. Verse 20. And Leah said, God hath endued me with a good dowry. Now will my husband dwell with me, because I have borne him 6 sons. And she called his name Zebulun. Verse 21. And afterwards she bare a daughter, and called her name Dinah. Verse 22. And God remembered Rachel, and God hearkened to her, and opened her womb. Verse 23. And she conceived, and bare a son, and said, God hath taken away my reproach. Verse 24. And she called his name Joseph, and said, The Lord shall add to me another son. Verse 25. And it came to pass, when Rachel had borne Joseph, that Jacob said unto Laban, Send me away, that I may go unto mine own place, and to my country. Verse 26. Give me my wives and my children, for whom I have served thee, and let me go, for thou knowest my service which I have done thee. Verse 27. And Laban said unto him, I pray thee, if I have found favor in thine eyes, tarry, for I have learned by experience that the Lord hath blessed me for thy sake. Verse 28. And he said, Appoint me thy wages, and I will give it. Verse 29. And he said unto him, Thou knowest how I have served thee, and how thy cattle was with me. Verse 30. For it was little which thou hadst before I came, and it is now increased unto a multitude. And the Lord hath blessed thee since my coming. And now when shall I provide for mine own house also? Verse 31. And he said, What shall I give thee? And Jacob said, Thou shalt not give me anything. If thou wilt do this thing for me, I will again feed and keep thy flock. Verse 32. I will pass through all thy flock today, removing from thence all the speckled and spotted cattle, and all the brown cattle among the sheep, and the spotted and speckled among the goats. And of such shall be my hire. Verse 33. So shall my righteousness answer for me in time to come, when it shall come for my hire before thy face. Every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and brown among the sheep, that shall be counted stolen with me. Verse 34. And Laban said, Behold, I would it might be according to thy word. Verse 35. And he removed that day the he-goats that were ringstraked and spotted, and all the she-goats that were speckled and spotted, and every one that had some white in it, and all the brown among the sheep, and gave them into the hand of his sons. Verse 36. And he set 3 days' journey betwixt himself and Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. Verse 37. And Jacob took him rods of green poplar, and of the hazel and chestnut tree, and pilled white strakes in them, and made the white appear which was in the rods. Verse 38. And he set the rods which he had pilled before the flocks in the gutters in the watering troughs, when the flocks came to drink, that they should conceive when they came to drink. Verse 39. And the flocks conceived before the rods, and brought forth cattle ringstraked, speckled, and spotted. Verse 40. And Jacob did separate the lambs, and set the faces of the flocks toward the ringstraked, and all the brown in the flock of Laban. And he put his own flocks by themselves, and put them not unto Laban's cattle. Verse 41. And it came to pass, whensoever the stronger cattle did conceive, that Jacob laid the rods before the eyes of the cattle in the gutters, that they might conceive among the rods. Verse 42. But when the cattle were feeble, he put them not in. So the feebler were Laban's, and the stronger Jacob's. Verse 43. And the man increased exceedingly, and had much cattle, and maidservants, and menservants, and camels, and asses,